Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We've talked before about self-love and how important it is. We're going to dig deeper into that today, and she's going to help us down that road. She's an author, spiritual educator. I'm going to call her a yoga master. I don't know if that's correct, but I'm going there with it. She's the founder of Mental Training. She's Caren Paskel, and she's back with us today. Welcome back, Caren.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. And the self-love thing, this is, well, actually, it's part of a book that you're writing now, right?
Yes. And I wrote The Power of Self-Belief, and that was really inspired by my journey through my late husband's, our marriage and his diagnosis of terminal brain cancer, and how I went through that with his inspiration and kind of took on this power of self-belief that he had. And that allowed me to thrive and have a beautiful 2 years, even though he was going downhill and passed. Together, we just empowered each other through that experience. And then, so I talked about the whole experience in my book. Now, self-love enabled me to meet someone like him. And what it's doing for me now is creating a whole new story of how I'm living after going through my husband passing. That is a beautiful story, but I think people now want to know, I don't want to be my story. You know what I'm saying? The past is the past, and that will always be part of my story, but I'm writing a new story. And so with the power of self-love, really it creates this union within yourself where rather than running, out to the world to fill up, you're already full. And so what happens is when you're bursting with this self-love, you magnetize so many gifts and blessings. You don't have to run. You can actually just be in the present. And that is the most beautiful gift of all. And so I started writing feverishly on this solo trip that I just went on skiing in Colorado. But it was, when you have the power of self-love, you're able to go away alone and feel fully alive. You don't have to have anybody with you. But the thing is, you're never alone with self-love, but it attracts the most loving connections. And so I made so many new friends and met with people that I met there last year. I mean, it was just extraordinary, but I also came into a newfound awareness of where I'm at in terms of my husband's death and how I'm feeling now and how I'm able to move forward. So it's a powerful motivating factor to be and live your best life, no matter who comes or what comes and goes.
It's interesting when you ask people who take vacations alone from time to time, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you pull that off? And the ones that do it don't even think twice about it. It's like, yeah, I just booked it and I went. Because just what you're saying, Caren, when you have that love of life, love of yourself, you run into people and you just start conversations, and you pull them to you. It's not that you're going to have, this long relationship with them. You could be online somewhere and start a conversation, and it's a great conversation. Hey, enjoy your trip. And it could have been you're online at the airport, whatever it might be, 15 minutes. And it was like, yeah, that was really good. All right, cool. That might not happen unless you're open to it and bringing it into it.
That's the key word. It's this openness. And to be honest, the reason I love talking about it so much is because I was not an open book for most of my life. I did not want anybody to talk to me. And, I was, had more mental disturbance and agitation. So through the power of self-belief, through the power of love, the disturbance mentally is gone. And I've just opened up to be fully me. But you really do have to believe you're worthy, and you have to fall in love with yourself. People talk about falling in love with all, someone else. And it's like, they fall flat on their face because they haven't taken the time to build the relationship with yourself. And so when I go away alone, it's really saying I am important, and I'm going to have a great time with me. I enjoy my company. When you enjoy your own company, you'll never need to be in anyone else's company, but you will draw the best company randomly. It's like, it was so interesting. I mean, I wasn't trying to meet anybody, and just everywhere I was, because I have love for myself. It's like, an openness. It's an openness, and people want to be around that.
Approachable.
Yes, it's approachable. And it's so fun because you meet a very similar kind of connection that you have with yourself. You meet confident people, you meet happy people, you meet people who want to connect as well and are open. And, when I was closed, this is what I'm going to write about in my book, where those are the kind of relationships that I drew, and I kind of needed someone to love me, and that was not a healthy relationship. Turned out I got myself into a lot of trouble, not loving myself. And loving and loving and loving. It's like, that's how I met my husband. And we had the most amazing, incredible relationship in marriage. And now I'm able to, even after losing him, this is the power where I know that I don't have to, not have another partner again. I can be open to loving in another way with somebody else as well. And, most people after a loss or death have a really hard time moving forward. And for the last 2.5 years, I feel like I felt married still, because my husband died and I didn't want him to die, and we were still married and in a great relationship. But I really grieved with grace, and I really thought about my higher mission and goals and my journey and honoring him. And that helped me to continue to move forward. And I knew it would be a matter of time, but I really could not entertain dating anyone or being with anyone. But I believe this power of self-love got me through the last 2 years thriving, and now has opened me up to receive love in other ways, and the possibility of it, and the possibility of soulmates. I don't believe in one soulmate. The soul, like when you really shine in here and you open up to that with your self-love, there'll be another match at some point. And so I want to write about that so people understand it's not a one and done. If you open yourself up with this love, you will attract that over and over again.
Yeah. And thank you for saying all of that, because so many times we hear, gotta love yourself, self-love and all of that. But unless you back it up with something, which you did with a lot of passion, there's the reasons for it. And I can tell you, in my journey, struggling with the same things that you struggled with, not the passing, but it was the passing of a relationship. And you grieve that as well. And the first time, I'll never forget, the first time I went to dinner by myself. I don't know if I shared this with you. I can tell you where it was. It was an Applebee's, and I was working late. I'm like, gotta get something to eat. Oh, and I always have somebody around me. I'll say, hey, want to grab something tonight? Blah, blah, blah. And I just went by myself. And it was slightly awkward, but after the first 3 minutes, it was one of the best experiences ever. And that was the best food and beer I ever had. I'm not kidding. And you know why? Because I focused on it and me and not somebody else.
Well, we get really caught up. Some of us, a lot of people are just uncomfortable alone because you're not connected deeply to you. And so when you have an opportunity to connect deeply to yourself, which is really the practice of yoga, that's what it's about.
Or you're afraid to. You're afraid to confront yourself, afraid to see what's inside.
Oh yeah, exactly. And you have to be willing to go there, because think about it this way. You're going to have another relationship, but you're afraid to see what's in you. You're not going to be able to even be yourself with that person. And so it's never going to work because you'll be hiding. So it really is a vibrant vulnerability, to show up in this enthusiastic way and just know that it's okay. Whoever doesn't like it or whatever anyone says, you just keep being you. And with the power of self-love, I will say you will never, ever feel alone. There's not a moment, even when I'm by myself, that I feel alone. I love my own presence. I'm enough. That's the 3 words. I am enough. But because of that, I think, you know, people find that really attractive. It's a breath of fresh air, you know, to just be around someone who isn't trying to like run after you to feel good. You're just good. Like, hey, what's up? You know, so
Right.
it's so easy to have conversations from that place of not needing anything and just that, you know, that self-confidence. Like, I'm good here alone. And if you want to talk to me, that's good too.
And isn't it funny that when somebody's in a relationship, and I'm being honest, that but they're really not. They're not really showing everything inside of them because they haven't found themselves. They haven't found the love within themselves. And tell me this, Caren, when you started, your journey and, spending more time by yourself, did you turn around and say, well, first of all, did you say, as you entered, did you say, what am I going to do? How am I going to fill my days? I'm going to be alone. And did you turn around and say, OMG, I have no time. I have no time doing, I got this to do. I got that to do on your own. Did it look
Oh
like?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the thing is my life. And I think that's what attracted my husband is he even said it. I remember he said something like, I couldn't make a date with him because I was leading a teacher training and I was out of town a couple weekends working. And he was like, wow, that's so attractive. Like, it's so nice that you're doing something with your life. And so, you know, he liked that I had things going. And that's one of the things is I kept my life going. He kept his life going and we had our life together and we supported the life that we were also doing separately. So it was really beautiful. And that's why I think, you know, after he passed, I still had a life, thank goodness. So I really suggest that no matter what, it doesn't matter. I mean, some people may not have to work, right? You may not need the money, but you have to have something that you're working on. You owe it because you don't know what's going to happen. And if you don't have, also relationships can get really, really challenged when a person is only dependent on that relationship and that person
Yep.
to be happy and feel loved. So it is so healthy to love yourself, but it really, you know, relationships with another being take a lot of work. But first, people don't understand you've got to do the work on yourself. You have to get to know who you are. Now, most of us didn't do that. And so we've had the divorces and we've had the bad, whatever. But if you're listening to this and you haven't done the self work, then I really, the time is now. It's never too late. It will be the best investment that you can make, money, energy, time, whatever, all three or some of the above, into you. You will never lose when you invest in yourself, when you invest in building a relationship with you and getting to know who you are. Nothing will break you, no matter who comes or goes. That's what I'm here to share.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm doing great. I'm happy every day. Yes, I miss my husband. I wish he were here, but he's not. And that's okay. And I can open up to have a beautiful life living on my own. I can open up to the possibilities of another soulmate. I have beautiful relationships with my mentees and my mentors, and even my friends and family have become closer because I've loved myself. They haven't changed, but I decided to love myself. Therefore, I can love so much more. I can give so much more. So really it's this power, to the extent that you love yourself, is what you'll receive. That's just it. It's a measurement. You love yourself more, you receive more love and you give more love. So it's impossible to give and receive in this way without the love of yourself. So do whatever you have to do to, you know, and like you said, it's not always easy at first. You're going to have to see all of it. And you're going to have to move through maybe the things that need to be worked on. And that's beautiful though, because you get to do that and no one can do it for you.
You know what you offer? Strength training. It's really
That's
what
why
it is.
mental
Yeah,
strength training. Yes.
that's what I'm talking about. It's you offer how somebody can become stronger emotionally, mentally, to move their life forward. Because many of us aren't, and we're afraid to admit it, even to our partner or current soulmate, whatever it might be, because maybe you're showing up, but you're really not showing up as the real you because you haven't found you. You haven't found that love for yourself. And unfortunately, when you get into relationships, even long term, that all gets lost. And
Yeah.
it's
Sometimes,
hard.
you lose yourself in the relationship. You really get caught up in the relationship and that person, and catering that to them. And I'm not saying you should definitely be of service, right? But when you over cater, you lose what you need. And so there's got to be respect. What do I need to be at my best every day? And if that person says, "Oh, you're concentrating on yourself too much," that's not going to be a good relationship,
Mhm.
because then they need you to do more for them than yourself. And the self-love is believing that you truly are worthy to be at your best physically. Like, what do I have to do to be in my optimal health, right? For myself, what does that look like? My mental equanimity or emotional intelligence or poise, let's say. The intellectual, be able to contemplate and think for yourself and have clarity. And then spiritual, that spiritual connection. What does that mean for you? So this person that I'm, wrapped in, is a full-time job. So most people, if I ask, what do
Well, I
you
just
do?
want to say, should be a full-time job. If it's not,
Right,
you're not doing it
exactly.
right. You're not
People
doing your
make
job.
the money, they make the material, the money, the full-time, and then the relationships, they forget about themselves. And then they wonder why they're not happy, why they're not feeling good, why the relationship doesn't work. It's like, well, what did you do for you to be at your best so that you can actually enjoy your job, so that you can actually enjoy and give to your partner or your relationship? So it's not selfish. People say, "Oh, well, if I do this or that, or I take yoga, then it's selfish because I'm doing it just for me." Well, I'm sorry, but I would really hope to be with someone. I've been with someone who didn't take care of themselves. It was horrendous. It was upsetting, and it made me feel like crap as well. Like, why don't you want to take care of yourself? Why do you think, letting yourself go is going to attract me,
Well, do you think that person, and this happens many times in relationships, they ignored themselves because they were taking care of the other person, focusing on the other person, and then they can throw it back and say, look what I do for you. I do this, I take care of this. I don't
Yes.
even have time for myself.
The excuse, I've been doing everything for you. And it's like, well, if we're really and we want to serve someone else, serving them would mean make myself the absolute best for this human being,
Right.
because that's the highest way to serve somebody. So when you have this power of self-love, it's refreshing. People want to be around because I'm bubbly and I'm happy. Why? Because I've taken care of myself. I didn't put everyone else and everything before my needs. I go away alone so I can be creative, so I can basically be removed from the day to day, which allows me to get perspective on where am I really at in my growth? Because I'm a grower, I'm a transformer. I'm going through metamorphosis all the time. So sometimes I don't know where I'm really at because I'm doing the day to day. So when I step away and I change my environment, I really spend quality time with me, and I get to know how much I've grown and where I'm really at. And it's beautiful to witness your own growth. But when you're not growing and you're staying stuck, like you were talking about, and kind of hiding out and suppressing, it's really, for most people, right? It's depressing. And mentally, there's a lot of problems, and you can't flourish in your relationships and move forward. So it's time to open up to, what does it look like to love myself? I'm see, this is what I say to everybody listening. You're the only person that's going to be with you from the moment you were born to the moment you die. That relationship, wouldn't you say, is the most important one? Everything else is subject to change. You just don't know. It's not guaranteed. But you're going to be with you from the beginning till the very end. So if you don't have love for yourself, you're in big trouble in this lifetime. And it's going to feel like a state of hell. I always believe that heaven and hell is a state of mind. It really is a state of mind.
Mhm.
So if you're living in a state of hell, That's a mental state, and a state of heaven is mental as well. Which one do you want to live in?
And you might not even realize it that you're doing it to yourself in terms of the hell part. And so many of us feel guilty. We feel guilty for taking that time. So, here and now, stop. Don't do that anymore. Unless you're drastically impacting somebody else. For example, let's say you're leaving your small children at home so that you can go to the gym and hang out in the steam room and
Yeah.
get a cup of coffee with a friend. Okay.
You
Yeah.
have to have you have obligations because of the choices that you made in life. So you can't just throw those out the door and say,
Right.
well, I need to go take care of myself. Well, you made a choice to have children and you have to take care of those children. But so the self-care might look different. You can't just leave whenever, right? So
Right.
you do have to think it through. There are obligatory duties. So I'm not saying just all day long, just take care of you and don't pay attention to anything else. Like, I set my day to be at my highest, to be in line with my highest self, let's say, and to be at my best. So early hours in the morning, I'm studying, reflecting on eternal values. I'm reading my vows and commitments and affirmations to myself. I'm planting all the seeds for my brilliant life. I'm thinking all of these thoughts, gratitude. I move my body. I eat food that nourishes me, so that when I go into the full day or when things happen, I've already taken care of myself. I've already said I'm worthy enough to love myself and take these few hours in the morning. And then I'm able to give so much more from that. But it takes the power of love to set your day up like that and to make those commitments and be disciplined.
We all want things to move fast. To see that progress, let's say we start out. Do you look back, Caren, at like even 6 months ago, 3 months ago, and look at the progress and see, wow, you know what? I have moved forward quite a bit. It might not look that way as a whole, but when you look back at those 3 months where you were 3 months ago, 6 months ago, are you seeing that in terms of, well, there's been some pretty decent progression along the way?
Actually, yes. And one of my teachers says change is gradual, not sudden. But to be honest with you, I think it's right that is right. You don't like wake up and look in the morning and be like, oh my God, it's not that kind of sudden, like, oh, I've grown and I've changed and I can see it.
Right.
But like 3 months is not that long. 6 months is really not that long. So when I really look at my state of mind and I've seen this growth and I feel the growth, and I also just alone the trip on my, who I met, who I attracted, what happened, all the silver linings, how everything just randomly was perfect, harmonious, fell into place. That is because of my growth. That is just me being in line with the universe, because the universe is just energy and love. That's what we all are inside. We're the blockers of that. We get in our way with our ego and with our BS and with, just whatever. And it's like, just put that to the side. And, it takes some time, but I've taken the time, and it's taken many years. But at this point, I feel like it actually is quite sudden. Like at some point, the gradual changes, they're happening like all the time. Cause now I'm just in the quantum field. You know what I'm saying?
It feels like it's speeding up. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of hiding out and going back into my covers and small, it's like, no, even if it's, things that happen that I don't like or a tragedy, it's just, that's part of life. I'm going to stay open. I'm going to do everything in my power not to close off. And that's what's allowed me to just feel so alive and vibrant.
We think the same in that, because if you talked to me 5 years ago, if, like you said, something comes up, something major, I would react in a totally different way. Now I'm like, okay, nah. I say to myself, nothing surprises me. No, it's no surprise, no problem. Wasn't expecting that today. We'll just deal with that. No problem. On to the next thing.
Wasn't expecting that one, but yeah, that's the attitude. And it really is so much, isn't it so much better to live that way? It's
Oh
just,
my gosh. You know what? I gave myself a friggin' ulcer from all of that because I would think and worry about things. And now it's like, whatever. But to your point before of the small changes make the big change. And this comes from a work mentality, changing companies, things like that in my past, but it resonates now just as well. It should be an evolution, not a revolution. An evolution, not a revolution. You can't expect overnight. It's a slow
It's a
change.
compound effect. I do believe that. And
Yeah.
I mean, so I look way back, I'm like, wow, but at this point, it does feel like I'm just soaring. I'm flying around. And
Mhm.
the power of self-belief and the power of self-love is really where it's all at. And once you really truly believe in your own power and you're like, wow, I have this power within, this limitless energy,
Mhm.
then it opens you up to all the opportunities and possibilities. And it's just gifts upon gifts, blessings upon blessings. They're really just coming from you. They're coming from within,
Yep.
but you are not closing yourself off to them anymore. They were always there. It was always there inside of you. So it's nothing you can find externally. It's only internal. But then what happens is the world opens up to you, and it's just so fun. It's like, wow, a lot of people have a negative attitude toward the world. Mine is positive. When people talk about the world so negatively, I'm like, there's always going to be good and evil, righteousness and unrighteousness. There's going to be the pairs of opposites. That's what makes up the world. You wouldn't even know one without the other. But I just see it as this beautiful display, this lively display that we get to be entertained by, that we
Mhm.
get to be a part of, that we get to go through, and that we, like you said, you can either fight and you can flight and you can protect yourself and go into survival mode and you won't grow, you won't be happy. Or you can, like you said, you can evolve. That's my whole mission. You can evolve yourself, you can work on you, you can become the best you, and you'll look at the world differently. It's going to be a beautiful world.
And
And
people
you
will look
can,
at you differently. And you
yes,
don't even
yes.
know it. Like you'll just walk down the street, or I find myself walking in the gym and people just automatically say, "Hey, how you doing? Hi." If it was a few years ago, it probably wouldn't
Oh,
happen.
me too. I had the RBF. I didn't know what that was. The
I see.
resting bitch face.
I see.
Don't know if I'm allowed to say that on air, but someone, would say to me in the gym years ago, smile, right? Because I just had this look of misery in all my childhood pictures. No smile, just, you
I
know,
can't tell you, Karen, how many women I want to walk up to. It'd be perceived as being creepy and just say, smile. Because every once in a while you might see a quick smile out of them. Other times it's like,
yeah.
you have a beautiful smile. Smile. It's okay. It your workout will be
Well,
better.
they don't
You
feel
feel better.
beautiful. And I know that was for me too. And
Understood.
that is what this power of love is all about. When you really tap into it, you feel beautiful.
Yeah.
You love yourself, and you don't need the validation or the affirmations from someone else. I mean, people are just waiting to be complimented. It's like, tell yourself, look in the mirror, feel your own beauty. You won't ever need anyone to tell you. But, I've been told, people say, you're glowing. And that is honestly from the power of self-love, to
Yeah.
have that glow just comes out, because love is pure. It's the purest, I don't even know what it's the purest energy. It's the purest emotion that you
It
could
is.
ever have.
Yeah. Well, I feel it in you and your passion. And
Thank you.
I think that trip that you just took, just came back from, transformative for you.
It really was. I didn't realize how much I've transformed, but when I got on the plane, it was first of all, the flight was canceled. So I had to push my whole trip a day later. And I was just like, okay, right. Didn't bother me. Okay. It was a little annoying, but fine. It didn't like
You go
shake
with
me.
it. You
I
go
get
with it.
on the plane and I sit down, and this man, taps my shoulder and says, "Oh, my seat's next to you." And he was a really nice looking person. And I said, "Oh, okay." And he sat down, and I heard him speaking Spanish. So I knew he was from another country. And we just started talking, just started talking. I ended up talking the entire plane ride. But the funny part that I want to share is he shared the password for the Wi-Fi with me. And the part of the login was DAWID. It was David spelled with the W. And I said, "Is your name David?" And I started giggling, because my late husband's name was David. And in that moment, I just knew it was this beautiful sign of my own self-love that was drawing this connection. And we actually spent a lot of the time together. We skied together. I met all of he's a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And, I skied with his friends and him. And it was just this beautiful connection in time I had no expectations of meeting anybody and actually spending time with them on the trip and developing a sort of friendship where we're still talking. So that is a metamorphosis.
That wouldn't have happened if you weren't open to it.
No.
If you weren't and we're way over time. I could just keep going.
Just for all the rest of the day.
If you weren't in this place in your life, and more of that's going to happen. And for the rest of us. Your website is CarenPaskel.com. Caren
Yes.
with C. Caren, CarenPaskel.com. Great talk. Everybody, love yourself. It's okay. Don't be guilty.
Be a butterfly.
Be a butterfly. Yeah. Always great talking with you, Caren, and looking forward next time we get together.
You too. Take care. Bye. Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.